In 1987, in the outskirts of a small, fog-shrouded village called Roslin, there stood a massive, abandoned mansion known as Roslin House. Encircled by dense, ancient woods that seemed alive with whispers and unseen eyes, the house loomed like a dark sentinel. Its Gothic architecture, with tall, narrow windows and spiked towers, gave it an air of ominous beauty. Yet, despite its grandeur, the mansion remained untouched for decades. The locals avoided it, calling it cursed, a place where only darkness dwelled. Legends told of the land's bloody history, where an ancient tribe once conducted dark rituals. The mansion itself, built in the 1800s, carried its own sinister tales. A family vanished within its walls in the early 1920s, leaving behind a dining table laden with untouched meals, as if they disappeared mid-supper. Shadows danced behind the windows at night. Even when the house was empty, those who ventured too close spoke of hearing faint, disembodied whispers calling their names. The Asher family, Elias, Maria, and their twin daughters Emma and Sarah, were unaware of the mansion's grim reputation when they came across its listing. Grieving the loss of their young son, Jimmy, in a tragic car accident, they were desperate for a fresh start. The low price of the mansion felt like a blessing, and they convinced themselves that the rumors were nothing more than local folklore. From the moment they arrived, something felt off. The air was unnaturally heavy, and the surrounding forest seemed to close in on them, as if the trees themselves were watching. When Elias pushed open the front door, the old hinges groaned like a scream. The grand entryway, though vast, felt suffocating. Dust hung in the air like a shroud, and the wooden floor creaked beneath their steps, as though the house was alive and groaning under their weight. At first, everything seemed fine. The family began unpacking, exploring the mansion's countless rooms and hidden hallways. But the first night was anything but ordinary. Maria awoke to the faint sound of a child crying. At first, she thought it was one of the twins, but when she checked their room, they were sound asleep. The sound seemed to come from downstairs. She descended the stairs, her heart pounding, only to find the living room empty. As she turned to leave, she felt a cold, invisible hand brush against her shoulder. The next day, Maria told Elias about her experience, but he dismissed it as stress and exhaustion. However, strange occurrences continued. Emma and Sarah began talking about a sad lady they saw outside their window at night. They described her as tall with long, wet hair, wearing a blood-stained white dress. She never spoke, only stood there, staring. One evening, Elias was startled awake by loud banging on the walls. Grabbing a flashlight, he searched the house but found nothing. Returning to bed, he discovered a single word scrawled on his pillow in what looked like red ink: leave. Despite the mounting unease, Elias insisted they stay. But the events grew darker. One afternoon, while playing in the backyard, Emma stumbled upon a hidden door concealed behind overgrown shrubs. She called her father, who forced it open to reveal a narrow tunnel leading to a secret basement. Inside, they found a room filled with rotting wooden furniture and strange symbols carved into the walls. In the center stood a stone altar stained dark, as if something terrible had happened there. From that day forward, the house seemed to come alive with malice. Doors slammed shut on their own. Lights flickered uncontrollably, and the temperature dropped inexplicably. The twins began waking up screaming, claiming the sad lady was now inside their room, hovering over their beds. Maria started hearing whispers while alone, soft voices calling her name. One night, while preparing dinner, she turned to see every knife in the kitchen drawer sticking upright in the wooden counter, as if placed there by an unseen hand. Elias, too, began to change. He became distant and irritable, spending hours in the secret basement. He claimed he could hear voices down there, voices that promised to bring back what was lost. One night, Maria woke to find him standing over her with a knife in his hand. When she asked him what he was doing, he blinked in confusion, dropped the knife, and said he didn't remember how he got there. The final night in Roslin House was one the family would never forget. A deafening crash woke them in the middle of the night. The twins were missing from their room. In a panic, Elias and Maria searched the house, following the sounds of faint laughter echoing through the halls. They found Emma and Sarah in the attic, standing in front of an old, dusty mirror that had been covered by a sheet. The girls were staring at their reflections, but something was wrong. What stared back at them were not their faces. The reflections showed twisted, grotesque figures with hollow eyes and gaping mouths. As Elias ripped the sheet off the mirror, the house erupted in chaos. Doors and windows slammed violently. An unholy scream filled the air, and shadows poured out of the walls, reaching for the family. The mirror began to glow, showing horrifying images of blood and fire. A chorus of voices roared, "You will never leave. This is our home now." In sheer desperation, Elias grabbed a nearby chair and smashed the mirror. The instant it shattered, the house fell silent. The doors flew open, as if the mansion itself was expelling them. Without a second thought, the Ashers fled into the night, leaving behind all their belongings. They never returned to Roslin House, but the mansion still stands dark and silent, waiting for its next victims. The villagers say that on quiet nights, you can still hear whispers from within its walls, calling out to anyone foolish enough to listen.